that time of the year again. It's time to apply to the JET program. And we all know it's important. Statement of purposes. They're so important. Today we're going to talk about that. I have my furry friend here. So beautiful. She knows all about that. She is a JET applicant. She passed. She got her interview. She moved to Kumamoto, Japan for a long time. She hustled the streets as an ALT. Now look at her. She's beautiful. Beautiful cat. So are you. You'll be the best program applicant if you follow my video. And follow Senna. Look at her. But yes, today we're going to talk about JET. Try and give you some of the lowdown, the rundown on doing your statement of purpose. If you focus hard, you'll pass. You'll at least pass your first part of the application and get an interview. And that's all we want to do for this video, is help you get focused on writing that statement of purpose. Today we're going to be talking about the statement of purpose. Statement of purpose, and you got to be able to answer it, and you got to be able to answer it well. Outlining is the most important part of doing your statement of purpose. If you outline it well, you'll be able to write it well, have a great timeline, you'll have all of your thoughts, skills, what you want to do all in chronological order. You want to introduce yourself, you want to show your skill set, you want to give examples, flexibility, what you've done, and then you keep continuing, and then finally you give your what you want to do in the future, and then you wrap it all up with your conclusion. When you're writing your outline, after you've done all your brainstorming, you're doing your outline, make sure it's in chronological order. So when you're doing your outline, 5 parts: introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. First, your skills, applying your skills, what you want to do for the JET community, conclusion, just wrap it all up. It's a pretty easy outline example that I've used for almost all of my papers, because I applied to JET twice, also applied to other stuff. It's the kind of setting I like to use, and it's really easy to follow. I can first introduce myself, talk about my skill sets, how I use my skill set, what I want to do in the future, and I can summarize that all, and that's really easy for them to follow along and for them to judge my application. And there's a couple of things I want to go over real quick that I found online that were really great information about the top do nots to not put in your paper. One of the big do nots is you don't need to talk about your health. Don't talk about your health status unless it's really important. You can keep all that stuff, all that personal information for your other part of the application, for the health check. So none of that needs to actually be in this part of the paper. There's something that hinders you from doing something or some other health related issue. It's something you really don't need to bring up. That's personal. Be positive, explaining everything you can in that little amount that you have in 2 pages. Some other stuff to consider, grammar and mistakes. But if you have a mistake or two, don't worry. They're not going to care because they want to know the contents of your paper well. Don't have a ton of mistakes, but if you had 1 or 2, they probably won't catch them because they're only going to be reading these papers for like 5 minutes, grading them. That's it. So keep your contents relevant and, a good timeline, and have all the information that they can easily follow. Just don't have any spelling mistakes. There's word check for that. Another important issue that I want to go over is criticizing. There's no point to criticize anybody in this paper. Not yourself, not the JET program, nobody. You don't need to criticize. You don't need bad vibes in this paper. There's no point to having bad vibes. It's not gonna help. Your paper is just going to be tossed away. For example, when I first started teaching in Japan, I taught for a private company. I didn't really like them that much. I had some problems in school. However, I didn't put that in my JET paper. Instead, I put the best stuff I liked about it, and I translated that into stuff to help me go on to become a JET. When I first applied to JET, I got alternate, but I turned it down to take a position to do private teaching in Japan, and then I reapplied to JET. So, I went out of my way, and then after I reapplied, I became shortlisted. Anyways, I took all those negatives, I made them positives. So take any negative and make it a positive if you want to use it in your paper. But don't put negatives. Don't criticize people. This is not the time. Don't criticize Japanese culture. Don't criticize your own. But take any negative that you want to use and just make it a good positive to put in your paper. Writing too little and writing too much. You want to keep your paper to exactly 2 pages. That's it. 2 pages. 2 pages, double spaced, Times New Roman, 12-point font. Don't make it any longer. Don't make it any shorter. Keep it to 2 pages. If you're shorter than 2 pages, it might not look good. You might not have that much information for someone to interpret, to know who you are. And if you put too much information, well, that's going to be cut off, and they're not going to read it, and you're going to have an incomplete paper. So the best thing you can do is just follow the guides and stick to 2 pages. Remember to talk about what you can do for the program, what you can give back. Don't talk about all the wants you want from the program. Talk about what you'll do, what you'll give back to the program. You'll get your wants completed on your own. Like, oh, I want to read manga while I'm in Japan. I want to go shopping. I want to go travel around Japan. Well, that's stuff you can do on your own time. You don't need to talk about it in the paper. That's not relevant. Talk about what you can give back to the program, what you can give back to the local community. Don't mention anime. Don't mention manga. Don't mention your collection of toys, how much you like Pokemon. I love Pokemon, but it's not something I'm going to put in the paper. I love video games. It's not something I'm going to put in the paper. There's no time for that. If they ask about that, I can talk about that in the interview. If you know how to word it and you think it's very relevant, you could say, oh, I love manga and I think this is something I could talk about with the students in class, but you need to go all the details of what manga you like and why. You could easily say, I love manga because it's part of the Japanese culture, and I think that's something I could really share with my students, and we could use that to bond. Try and keep out the poppy cultural stuff like manga, anime, video games. They are relevant and they are important, but interviewers, they're looking for how you contribute to the program, what you'll get from it, what you'll do in the future. That's what they're looking for. You have these interests, and sure, it's a great time to talk about them, but if you're going to, just make sure they relate to the paper. Don't make sweeping statements about Japanese culture. There's no time to talk about that in this paper. So for your outline, you'll especially want to talk about your flexibility. Jets who are flexible, jets who are outgoing, are ones who are usually chosen. Shows you're determined to make mistakes and to go above and beyond. Applicants who are not afraid to make mistakes show their positivity, their outgoingness, flexibility. Those are ones who are going to become a jet. And being a teacher, it's all about being outgoing, being flexible with students. Students have different abilities, and so you got to be able to cater to that. And then the last part of your outline you should be focusing on is just kind of your future plans, what you expect to do with your skills gained through JET, what you plan on doing after JET. It doesn't need to be very long, but you should touch on that subject. And that should just be just before your conclusion or in your conclusion a little bit. Here's some more advice when writing your paper. One of the anagrams I like to think about is called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I love this anagram. I think it's important to know this one. Keep it simple, stupid, because when you're writing this paper, it shouldn't be like you're writing a crazy piece of literature. It shouldn't be like you're writing like a typical business application or anything. This paper is not like writing a report who are writing a statement of purpose. You don't know who's reading your paper. It could be a Japanese person. It could be a very tired ex-jet who's already read 100 papers. But you don't want to have some long jargon. You don't want to have something confusing. You want to have something easy timeline, as I said, showing your progression from when you started to what you want to do in the future. It should be easy to follow along. You should be able to read it. You should be able to breeze through it in like 5 minutes and know everything about you. So that's all the advice I have for writing a statement of purpose. The best things you can do is brainstorm, outline. Make sure when you go to put it together, you have at least 5 paragraphs. You have the intro, 3 body, and conclusion. Make sure it's easy to read, won't bore the reader, they'll get all the information out of it, and make sure it's in chronological order. So thank you again. I'm glad you visited this video. Hope you got something out of it. If you go to jetprogramguide.com, my own personal website, you can read more about the statement of purpose. I have my own previous statements of purpose on there listed. I have other things about Japan, and I'm trying to update it and add more content regularly. Now I'm turning to YouTube because I just want to make it more exciting, more digestible to learn about the JET program, and then hopefully progress even myself. So take it easy.